During a time where every developer wanted to have the next big indie game, Dave the Diver came out of nowhere and absolutely took the spotlight. Dave the Diver has literally everything you could want in a game. It has perfect art style, perfect music, it has like 20-something mini-games, which is crazy, and I'll get back to that one. The writing is fire, the character development is fire, the NPCs are fire, the actual gameplay loop itself is fire. When I added Dave the Diver to my Steam cart and I purchased it, I went into it knowing absolutely nothing about it. I thought this was going to be just a short little fun game that I could enjoy for my free time. But I ended up playing Dave the Diver for well over 20 hours, and I can guarantee you at least half of that was spent playing Dream Live. Dave the Diver will not only keep you entertained, but also immersed for its runtime. When Dave the Diver, and I'm not talking about the game title, I'm literally talking about Dave the Diver, is contacted by his friend to help run a sushi restaurant right over the treacherous trench that treasures the terrific fish called the Blue Hole. Do you know how many times it took me to say that? Anyways, the Blue Hole is going to be where you do most of your fishing and exploring as well. It's going to be where you find most of your items in the game, such as ingredients, upgrade components, or any sort of rare item. Now you're probably wondering by now what I meant by the sushi restaurant and ingredients and all this stuff. That's because after each day of you diving in the Blue Hole, you actually go up to the top to the sushi restaurant and you run their restaurant. So Dave the Diver is basically 2 games in one. On one half, you're trying to figure out this story and what's happening in the Blue Hole because there's these earthquakes that have been going on. On the other half, you're trying to run your sushi restaurant, which requires you to get ingredients, run a social media page, hire employees, upgrade the establishment. It's literally 2 games in one. But it's kind of hard to talk about the gameplay without fully spoiling. So I'm going to talk about the obvious elephant in the room, which is this game's art style. Dave the Diver has some of the most well-crafted cutscenes I have ever seen, and it's such an ode to animation, a lot of pop culture references. It's just fun. Everything about this game is fun. You can tell the art team and the music design team has really cared about this game because there's so many small things in this game that you can interact with, or you can talk to, or maybe mess around with that you wouldn't be able to do in a AAA game. And this is purely because the game just wants you to have fun. The game doesn't want to lock you out of anything. If you want to go visit a random tunnel, then go do that. If you want to go pet the cat, then go do that. And also related to detail, this game is extremely detail oriented in the fact that it makes sense. All of the fish, well, most of the fish in this game are real fish. A lot of the dishes in this game are a lot of dishes you can make in real life. There's so many things on your phone you can do. You can access the calculator. I don't know why you would want to go on the calculator in game, but you can. Playing this game feels so refreshing because every time you start up a new day, it feels like a new day in the game. There's always different animals based on what time of day you jump in the Blue Hole. There's always some event going on at your restaurant, so different people will come in from different brands, or maybe a social media group will come to your restaurant, and you have to serve the customers based on what the event is and collect the ingredients for that. Every once in a while, there's a cooking competition in the game and you take part of it. Maybe you're trying to go through the fish collection because you haven't seen every fish in the game. There's also different characters in the game that request different things from you, which keeps the game exciting. Someone might ask you to take pictures of a certain fish. Someone might ask you to bring them seashells. And you don't have to do this stuff, of course, but if you want to, you can, and that's the fun part. Later in the game, there's an entire section where you can do farming. You can have chickens in a game about fish. Dave the Diver's gameplay is excellent, but I do want to talk about its story as well. Without giving away too much, this game's story is pretty good. There's always something interesting going on, and for every chapter that there is in the game, there's an interesting mini game that comes with it. And the mini games aren't anything too special, but it's just the fact that it takes away from the main game and it's original and fun. There are some boss fights in the game as well, which I'm gonna show one on screen, but I'm not gonna give away all of the bosses. There's a decent amount of puzzles that come with the story, and doing that actually feels pretty rewarding. And when I tell you that Dave the Diver is a game that completely catches you off guard, that could be a complete understatement. Dave the Diver is not limited to just the Blue Hole. There are so many other sections and areas in this game that are yet to be found, which will bring you not only new fish and enemies such as sharks, whatever, who cares about sharks, but it'll bring you characters as well who can access new minigames, new farms, everything. It basically expands the game times 3. When you get to this new area, you can not only explore, but you can also gamble, farm, you can gamble more. I mean, the possibilities with this game is literally endless. Every section of this game was so carefully pieced together, it just feels like this game really could be a masterpiece. There are so many times in this game where I'll be doing something that's so absurd or funny that I'll literally laugh out loud. Now, you technically could go into this game with a story, single player gameplay perspective and just follow all of the rules, but I mean, what's the fun in that? There's got to be well over 100 recipes. There's an entire index for all of the animals in the Blue Hole. You can scroll on Instagram in the game. And not to mention, when you dive in the blue hole at nighttime, it's a completely different game, which means new fish. I was gonna make the comparison and say that this game is basically Pokemon but for the ocean, but that would be a disrespect to Dave the Diver, because a lot of thought is actually put into the main gameplay loop. For example, diving feels so fluent in this game. I love swimming around just for fun and just for the hell of it. Most of the time, you don't even need to actually catch fish when you go for a dive. You can go down in the blue hole for literally anything. If you want to go get some scraps, maybe some parts, you can just do that. The game is actually challenging as well. When you see something that's way too big or does way too much damage, you actually have to put some skill into trying to kill it. Because when I tell you that you will die in this game, you will die. Some of these things do a lot of damage. The restaurant as well. Yeah, you could just set up a menu and run a restaurant, but you also have to train employees, hire employees, learn how to make drinks, learn how to make new drinks, decorate your restaurant, upload things on your Instagram, and of course catch more fish so you can have a better restaurant, because you can't just hand out dishes if you don't have the ingredients for it. One of the biggest takeaways here is that I don't want this game to seem overwhelming for anyone. Dave the Diver is extremely user-friendly, but also somewhat of a challenge to keep things interesting. If you want to focus on just the restaurant part of the game, you can do that. There's an entire statistics page for it. Or if you're a collector and you like hunting different fish and going through the whole index, you can craft different weapons for different situations. I can tell that this game really is for everyone, because as a player, I don't really like farming in video games, which is why farming in Dave the Diver is kind of optional. You don't have to do it, but it's also extremely fun for someone who would want to do farming in a video game. If you like having a high stakes challenge for better items, that's why they have the nighttime mode with new enemies that are way harder to defeat. If you're someone who doesn't even want to kill the fish in the video games, you can do that too. You can just capture them. You don't actually have to kill them. Well, most of them. Some of them, unfortunately, are way too dangerous. But the characters and exploration, cutscenes, collectibles, gameplay loops, everything in this game makes Dave the Diver a 10 out of 10. Admittedly, there were times where I did take breaks from Dave the Diver, but not because it was bad or anything, it's just because I wanted to take a break, play something else. And when I got back to playing Dave the Diver, it felt like everything was in its place. It felt like I wasn't lost, because the game is so good at making sure that the player feels comfortable and that they have the power to do anything in the game. One last note for this is that I'm so excited for this new DLC. If you didn't know, Dave the Diver is having a jungle DLC that's coming out in 2025 that I'm super excited about. Knowing the development team for this game and how well they absolutely cooked with this game, I just know the DLC is going to be fire as well. Dave the Diver runs for about $20 on Steam, and I'm telling you right now that purchase is going to be worth it. Save your money, don't buy that Marvel Rivals skin, and play Dave the Diver. Alright, see ya.